Hi, I'm Jason Hudson from Tenzig Technology, and today we're going to look at managing your Tenzig Windows 10 thin clients with Microsoft's Endpoint Manager. I'll explain how to create device groups so you can separate your endpoints or group them together for regions or test labs, and demonstrate the enrollment process at the endpoint. I'll show you how to set up your own Intune Win32 application packages within the Azure AD, and then deploy them to the physical Tenzig clients. I'll also demonstrate how to create configuration profiles for your devices and give examples of how to fine-tune and tweak your client by using the many customizable settings available. There will also be a section on how to set up your thin client to log on automatically and run in a kiosk-type manner by harnessing the power of Microsoft's Shell Launcher version 2. This will allow us to run a more secure and manageable client by only allowing access to a single WVD or AVD client to connect to your Azure Virtual Desktops. In your web browser address bar, if you navigate to endpoint.microsoft.com, you'll be prompted to log in to the Azure AD with your own company credentials. Once logged in, you'll be taken to the Endpoint Manager homepage where you can access all the services that allow you to manage your Tenzig Windows 10 thin clients. If you click on All Services in the left-hand menu, and then Devices, All Devices, you'll be able to see any endpoints already being managed in your Azure Active Directory. We can see that there is already one Windows device enrolled with a prefix name Desktop. If you click on the device in the list, you will see more relative information. Notice on this screen you can perform specific client-side tasks such as delete, wipe, and even remotely restart the unit. Before we enroll our Windows thin client, we are going to set up a couple of very useful groups in the Azure AD. The first one is going to be called Tenzig Users Device Enrollment, and the second one is going to be Tenzig Devices. The Tenzig Users Device Enrollment group will contain any of our Azure AD users that have the privilege to enroll devices at the client end. We don't want everyone to be able to enroll devices without our consent, and we can use this group later when we need to be selective about our enrollment process. The second group, Tenzig Devices, is where our device will belong once we enroll it successfully. I will show you how to be selective about which devices can join this group during the actual group creation process. To create the user enrollment group, select All Services, Groups, and click the New Group link. You'll now see the group creation page that will enable you to set up your first AD user group to enroll devices in. Select the group type to be Security, as this is going to give our Azure users the privilege to enroll devices. Type in Tenzig Users Device Enrollment as the group name and give it a meaningful description below. Set the membership type to be assigned because we want to add users manually in this example. Now click the No Owners Selected link and add your own user as the owner of the group. Do this by searching for your user, highlight it in the results, and click Select. Next, click No Members Selected and add your own user again. This time as a member that will be able to enroll thin clients later. Just as before, search for your user, highlight, and click Select. Once you've completed filling in this form, then simply click Create and you will see a notification message displayed showing the creation was successful. To create the device group for our endpoints, select All Services, Groups, and click the New Group link as we did before. Select the group type to be security again and type in Tenzig Devices as the group name and give it a meaningful description as we did before. We need to set this membership type to be dynamic device because we don't want to manually add devices each time they enroll. Imagine how much extra effort this would take if your device estate was in the thousands. Now, click the No Owners Selected link and add your own user as the owner of the group. Do this by searching for your user, highlight it in the results, and click Select. Clicking Add Dynamic Query will give you the ability to create expression statements that will determine which devices can belong to the group. We are going to use the display name or computer name on our thin client to query our endpoints that we wish to group in here. Under the Property section, we select Display Name, select the operator to be Starts With, as we want to include devices in this group that start with a particular computer name, and then type in desktop-L0C in the value column. This expression will now only include enrolled devices in this group where the local computer name starts with the words desktop-L0C. Once you're happy with this evaluation statement, then click Add Expression and you will see the expression appear in the rule syntax box below. Notice that if you want to be more specific in the rule set, you have the ability to add more. Click Save to return to the new group form and click Create. Remember to look out for the notification message displayed showing the creation was successful. Before we move on, we'd like to point out that the complementary Enterprise Tenzig Manager also has the capability to create bespoke custom groups for our devices. Inside Tenzig Manager, if you right-click on the Thin Clients group and select New and Group, you can create a subgroup called Tenzig Devices. Give it a meaningful name tick Filter by Computer Name and click OK. Click Edit Computer Name List, Add, and then type in Desktop ? The last two digits are wildcards and will group devices that match desktop followed by any other set of characters. Click OK twice and then right-click your group name and select Repopulate. Click OK and you'll see your thin client that starts with desktop appear in the client list on the right. We're almost ready to enroll our very first device into Endpoint Manager. We need to do one last thing, and that's configure the environment so that every time a device is joined to the Active Directory, they are automatically enrolled in Endpoint Manager. Inside the portal menu, select All Services, Devices, and click Enroll Devices. In the General section, click on the Automatic Enrollment link and you'll be taken to the Configure screen. This is where we tell Endpoint Manager which user group will allow automatic MDM enrollment when the device is joined to the AD. We're going to let Endpoint Manager know that if any user in Tenzig Users Device Enrollment joins a Tenzig Windows Thin Client to Azure AD, then we want to enroll them automatically into the MDM environment. In the field named MDM User Scope, click Sum and then the No Group Selected link, and you will see a Select Groups window open to the right. In the search box at the top right of the screen, start typing the user group name Tenzig Users Device Enrollment. Once it appears below, highlight it and then click the Select button. Notice that the groups field on screen should now show one group selected as highlighted in blue. Click Save and wait for the success notification message. Now we're ready to physically join the Tenzig Windows 10 thin client to the Azure Active Directory and watch it automatically enroll in Endpoint Manager. On your Tenzig Windows 10 thin client, click the Start menu icon, Run, and then type in ms-settings:workplace and click OK. Then you'll see the Access Work or School page displayed. Click the plus Connect button and you'll see the Set up a Work or Education account screen. In the Alternative Actions section at the bottom left, click on the Join this device to Azure Active Directory link. On the Let's Get You Signed In page, key in your personal Azure username, click Next, key in your password for the account and click Sign In. The next screen will ask you to confirm your organisation. We're happy with this, so click Join and wait until you see the You're All Ready message and then click Done. Now you can see the devices joined to the Tenzig Technology Azure AD. Now that we have joined the thin client to the Azure AD, if we wait a couple of minutes and go into the Portal menu, select All Services, Devices, and click All Devices link, we can see the Tenzig Windows thin client listed with a recent check-in time. If we click on the device, we can drill down further to get more specific information about the unit, such as its serial number, device model, and OS. Congratulations, you have successfully enrolled your Tenzig Windows 10 thin client into Microsoft's Endpoint Manager. In this section, we show you how to start using the power of Endpoint Manager to customize the Tenzig thin client by creating a configuration profile. Configuration profiles allow you to add and configure settings and then push these to devices in your organization. The first example will publish some configuration changes and make them available to the Tenzig Devices group, so only those in the group will get the updates and all other clients will be excluded. Select All Services, Devices, and under the heading Policy, click the Configuration Profiles. Once this new window is displayed, click Create Profile. Inside the Create a Profile window, select Windows 10 or later from the platform drop-down list and select Setting Catalog Preview as the profile type. Click Create at the bottom of the form. Now you will see a more comprehensive screen that will take you through the steps needed to complete your first configuration profile. Type in the name Tenzig Windows 10 Device Profile and give it a meaningful description. And click Next. On the Create Device Configuration Profile screen, click Add Settings, and you will see a list of categories displayed that you can drill down into and add to your profile. If you go to the Search for a Setting box in the top right and start typing Firewall and then click Search, you'll see a smaller set of results. For the Tenzig thin client that we have enrolled, we are going to switch off its private network firewall. To do this, click Firewall and scroll down to the setting named Enable Private Network Firewall and tick the box next to it. Don't worry about it saying Enable, we'll get the opportunity to disable it in just a moment. The new left-hand window will now allow you to further change the state of the private network firewall settings. Inside that window, you'll see the Enable Private Network Firewall switch. Currently, it's set to True, so simply click the switch and set it to False. Notice that all the subsettings are greyed out, as they won't be applicable if the firewall is disabled. Now we're happy with the changes, click Next to move on to assigning the profile to the Tenzig Devices group. On the Assignment section of the configuration profile, we click Add Groups and then type in the name of our Tenzig Devices group. Highlight it in the search results and click the Select button. We click Next and you'll be taken to the Scope Tags section. Because we've assigned a group of devices to get this configuration change, we don't really need a scope tag, so we'll click Next. This last section is a preview of all your settings that you can check before you save the configuration profile. Once you're sure you have everything for your profile, click Create and wait for the success notification message. Before I created the profile, I took a screenshot of the Tenzig Thin Client firewall options, and you can see the private network settings shows the Windows Defender firewall as switched on. A couple of minutes later, I received a notification that the Windows firewall is turned off. This proves that the recent config profile we created has now been assigned to the endpoint device. In this section, we show you how to create a custom Windows kiosk shell using a configuration profile that leverages Microsoft's Shell Launcher version 2 on the remote Tenzig Thin Client. We can also set the configuration profile to auto-log on each time the device restarts. You may be familiar with the Tenzig UWF wizard that comes as part of the standard Tenzig Windows client build. This can also create a custom shell for you to run single Win32 or UWP apps and give your users a securely managed desktop experience. We are going to create a configuration profile that will target a CSP or configuration service provider on the Windows 10 Thin Client. Select All Services, Devices, and under the heading Policy, click Configuration Profiles. Click Create Profile. Select Windows 10 or later from the platform drop-down list and select Templates as the profile type. Beneath the template name, click Custom and Create. In the Custom Profile Section 1, use a meaningful name. I'm going to call this Tenzig Kiosk AVD and give it a meaningful description. Click Next to move on to the next section. Inside the Configuration Settings tab, we are going to target the assigned access CSP on the Windows client and pass it an XML string. This will set up the user kiosk user 0 and set its single shell application and also set it to auto log in after a restart. Click Add and the right side form will appear. We add in the name Assigned Access Launcher 2. Give it a description and use the specific OMA URI so that the Thin Client knows which specific setting we are aiming for. This CSP is going to be /device/vendor MSFT assigned access shell launcher. Click the data type drop down and select string XML file. We are going to locate the XML file that contains a string to configure the custom shell on the Thin Client. In the Custom XML section, click the Open File dialog, browse to the location of your XML file, mine's in c:/temp and called shell launcher auto-logon-avd.xml. Select this file and click Open. The contents of the XML file will appear in the Custom XML field on the form. At the bottom of the Add Row screen, click Save and you'll see your OMA URI listed on screen. Click Next to move on. On the Assignments section of the configuration profile, we click Add Groups and then select Groups to Include. We type in the name Tenzig Devices and then highlight the item in search results and click Select. Click Next and Next because we know what devices we want to target, and then click Create. Make sure you know exactly which devices you intend to target here, as any in this group will put the thin client in kiosk single application mode. Always test any config changes on a sample of lab devices to be safe. Now we will force the thin client to sync with Endpoint Manager to get its changes immediately. So we go to All Services, Devices, and All Devices. Click on our device, then click Sync in the top menu and say yes to the sync question. If we go back and click Refresh, then we see the client has recently checked in. Remember, this may take a couple of minutes, so be patient. Once we see that the client has checked in, we can reboot the Tenzig device and see what happens. Once the client has rebooted, notice that it automatically logs in as kiosk user, and if we wait a little longer, it launches the single application MSRDCW that gives us access to our WVD AVD environment. In this section, we show you how to make a basic custom-built package of your own and then use Microsoft's content prep tool, Intune WinApp Util, to compile it into an Intune app. We will import this Intune application into Endpoint Manager and then publish it to the Tenzig Windows thin client. For this example, I have created a series of text files and a batch script in a folder on my local machine that I will import into Endpoint Manager. The packaged files will be transferred to the Tenzig client, unpacked, and the script executed. The 3 text files will be copied into the client's temp folder on C. Intune WinApp Util needs to be run from the command line, so we'll open a DOS prompt and take a closer look at what's going on inside the app before we publish it. If we go into memdeploy/text files on C, we can see text files in there and a batch job that will copy them over once the app is run on the remote Tenzig client. To run the prep tool, we're going to use the following command line sequence as follows. -C is the source of application folder to be compiled. Mine is c:/memdeploy text files. -S is the name of the installer. Mine is copytextfiles.bat. -O is the output folder where the compiled .intunewin file will be created. Mine is c:/preptool/output. If we run this, you will notice that copytextfiles.intunewin was generated successfully. Now we need to import this application into Endpoint Manager. Select All Services, Apps, and under the heading By Platform, click Windows and click Add on the Windows app screen. In the right-hand window, click the drop-down list, scroll down, and click Windows App Win32. Click Select. Now on the Add App screen, click Select App Package File, and in the right-hand pane, click Select a File. Remember, my file was compiled into c:/preptool/output/copytextfiles.intunewin. Highlight this file and click Open. Once you click Open, the package content will be displayed. That will include your original .bat file and the size of the app. Click OK and the more comprehensive app setup screen will be displayed. In the name field, you can leave this as is or change to something more in alignment with your company branding. I'm setting mine to be Tenzig Copy Files. Create a publisher name. I'm using Tenzig Technology. Create version numbers and any categories that might be useful for grouping your applications too. Once you're happy with the form, click Next. In the Program section, you are asked about the actual app installer and uninstaller processes and who to install the application for on the end client. My original installer was copytextfiles.bat. So that's what you need to call here, and also any specific command line switches. The uninstall command needs to be present. It's not validated at install, but we need one for completeness in this form. So I just used copytextfiles.bat again. Set the install behavior. I set mine as system because I want it to install and run whoever's logged on at the time. Click Next to set the system requirements for this installer to commence. On this screen, you can configure the installer to be more specific about the conditions that need to be met for the installer to run at all. You can see below that I wasn't too fussy about the conditions and just met my OS specifics. Click Next to move on to detection rules. Click the Rules Format drop-down and select Manually Configure Detection Rules. Click Add, and then in the right-hand pane, click Rule Type as File in the drop-down list. The dialog box will appear so you can specify how to identify that your app has installed successfully. If this criteria is met each time your device checks in, then it assumes that the app is installed and won't retry. If it doesn't exist, then Endpoint Manager will attempt to install or reinstall your app at a later time. In this example, I know that once finished, my installer will write a folder to the root of C named temp. So that's what I use as the folder detection method. I set the file to check for as 1.txt. This basically says that if Endpoint Manager checks later on and finds a file name 1.txt in the temp folder, then everything is okay and the app is still installed. Once you have set your rule, then click OK, and then Next and Next to skip the software dependencies. Click Next to skip the supersedence section. The assignments section is where you can either force the application to the endpoints, make it available for download by users, or exclude it altogether from groups of devices. In this example, we want the device in our group to force install the app, so we add our device group to the Required section of the process. Under the Required heading, click Add Group, and then inside the Select Groups to Include, we type in the name of our Tenzig Devices group. Click the item in Search Results and click Select. Click Next and you'll be taken to the Review and Create section. Notice that your assignment groups are hidden on this page, and to view them you need to click the twisty under the Group Mode heading. Once you are happy with your configuration, click Create and wait for the success notification message. Normally, once a configuration change has been made, the applicable devices will be asked to sync back with the endpoint server within 3 minutes. So you shouldn't have to wait too long to see the results. On the Tenzig Thin client, if we go into this PC and the local C drive, we can see that there is a new folder in there named temp. And inside, we have 3 files with a timestamp June 29 that match my original compiled ones. Understand that this is one of many uses of Endpoint Manager app deployment, and in my case, is acting like a file transfer protocol rather than an app deployment. So it's really powerful for just about anything deployment-wise. Before we wrap up today's session, let's go back and see how Endpoint Manager reports our newly installed application. Select All Services, Apps, and under the heading By Platform, click Windows. And you can see the 10-zig copy files we just created and deployed to the 10-zig thin client. Click on the application in the list and you are presented with a blue device status circle on screen. Under the heading Monitor, click Device Install Status and you will see our device in the results list with the status of installed. This concludes today's demonstration on managing your 10-zig Windows thin clients with Microsoft's Endpoint Manager. I'm sure it gave you an insight into some of the various ways to make your Windows 10 thin client a more secure and manageable one, and also how it can work in harmony with the already feature-rich 10-zig Manager Enterprise product. I hope you enjoyed the session, and remember, if you have any questions regarding this or related topics, then please contact your 10-zig team or visit the website at www.10zig.com.